So the first time I met Shahar, he handed me a book and he said, read this book and come back to me with a research project. Ever since, he tries to tell me what to do, but without much success. Anyway, as Shahar said, I'm going to present work that we did together with two German collaborators, Andreas Glockner and Susan Fiedler. And here I'm going to present a work that is not exactly about identifying factors in which people cheat. We're trying to examine the underlying processes. And it's always very hard to talk after I come back from lunch, so please let me know if my voice interferes with your nap. I will try to be a little, to lower my voice a little bit. Anyway, now I will try not to speak so much as Shahar did, so maybe we can catch up a little bit of the time that we missed. And I want to start with a quotation from Friedrich Nietzsche. He is my favorite philosopher, and there are two reasons why I want to start with this quote. The first one is that I learned that if you quote philosopher, it makes you look very smart. And I suggested Shahar to use Immanuel Kant, but maybe he's not smart enough to understand. Anyway, and Nietzsche said that, why do almost all people tell the truth in ordinary everyday life? Certainly not because a God has forbidden them to lie. The reason is, firstly, because it is easier. For lying demands invention, dissimulation, and a good memory. Now there are two basic ideas that Nietzsche is trying to say in this quote. First of all is that most people don't lie and cheat. And the second of all is that it's not because they are good people, it's because it's very hard to lie. You need to have a good memory, you need to remember what you said to whom and things like that. And so basically he said, most of us are honest, and it's because we don't, it's too much of a hassle to lie. The problem is, as Shahar showed, and as we have many evidence both from the lab and in real life, is that most people do lie and cheat, at least to a certain amount. So maybe Nietzsche's first surmise is not exactly this true, but we do know that, as Shahar said, that most people only cheat by a little bit. So we have very few people who don't cheat at all, and we have very few people who cheat to a large extent. But most people cheat only to a small extent, not to the maximum extent possible. Which suggests basically that we have maybe two costs for cheating. One is the external cost, which is, if you cheat, you can't get caught, you can't get penalized. And another one is more internal cost, which is, Nietzsche suggested it's about the cognitive effort, the cognitive demand. It's harder for us to lie. And as Shahar also said, it could be about the psychological tension. We feel stressed when we cheat and lie, and this causes us to cheat a little less to reduce the tension. And the work that I'm presenting is focused on this internal cause of cheating, and we try to understand better why people cheat, but only to a small extent and not to the maximum extent possible. And what we wanted to basically examine is two theories that tries to, psychological theories that tries to explain why people cheat and lie. And this theory, basically, both theories suggest that when we are facing with an opportunity to cheat, we can choose whether to be honest or to be dishonest. And the decision whether to be honest or dishonest depends on the theory that we are describing. So one of the main theories that we have, the self-maintenance theory that Shahar mentioned a little bit, is that we try to extend our moral boundaries. We try to convince ourselves to justify our behavior and to say it's not really about cheating. So what we actually do is we broaden our honest boundaries and we say it's okay to take this bet because it's not really cheating. I have good causes to do that, I benefit others, or it's not exactly about cheating, and we have different morals for different acts, and we say this is okay, so I'm still in the good moral values, so I can cheat and lie without compromising my moral self-image. Another theory is the bounded ethicality, which means that we don't have a good way to judge what is moral and what is not, because we have some self-serving mechanisms that help us bias our perception and say we are not really cheating. So under this theoretical model, basically the path for dishonesty disappears because we don't engage in any dishonest acts. Everything we do is honest because we don't see anything else but the honest option. And these are the two basic theories that we take and test. And if you take it to the extreme, you can say that these two theories seem at odds, right? Because if you look at the conscience continuum, we say that bounded ethicality is one side. We are completely unconscious to the fact that we are lying and cheating. And the self-maintenance theory said we are completely aware that we are cheating, but it's okay, we justify our cheating, we explain why it's okay even if we cheat. We are not really cheaters, we are not really, jeopardizing our moral self-image. And so we have this bounded ethicality that at the extreme it's completely unconscious, but it causes us, it increases our cognitive load. We pay the price that Nietzsche suggested that we are. And on the other side we have a more conscious process that leads us to a psychological tension because we try to compromise between our desire to be moral and our desire to maximize our gain and to profit from dishonest behavior. And what we try to suggest here is that although the two theories seem at odds, they're not necessarily at odds. Because rather than opposing, they are complementary. Because when we lie and cheat, we need to justify it to ourselves. We need to have a good reason why we can lie and cheat, and it doesn't make us, cheaters, less. So basically what we say is that we are aware that there is a conflict between our desire to be honest and the desire that we want to exploit the environment a little bit and to gain a little bit more than what we can. And we do it only to the extent that we can say it's okay, we're not really liars, we're not cheaters. We have many, many different ways to do this and to justify our behavior or immoral behavior. But the problem is that sometimes, maybe deep in our mind, we know that it's not perfectly okay. It's not perfectly fine, and it creates a tension. And this tension is the ethical dissonance that Shachar was talking about. And we need to resolve the tension because, as we all know, people don't like to be under stress. They don't like to feel a psychological tension. They want to feel that everything is okay. And they need to engage in certain tension reduction mechanism that will help us live together with these two conflict forces. And one of them is justifications, which could be cheating for others, which could be social norms. A good example for these social norms is people take stuff from the office, right? I mean, you can take paper for the printer, you can take a pen or something. Nobody considers it stealing, right? And basically, in social terms, it's not stealing, it's okay, because I work there, I can use this stuff, doesn't matter if I use it at home or not. And Dan Ariely likes to tell this joke, that this father comes back from home late at night and he sees his son very upset and the mother very furious, and he asks what happened. And she said, the school called, he stole a pen today from one of his friends. And the father comes to his son and said, really son, we've talked about it a million times. If you need a pen, I told you I can get you $1 million from the office. You don't need to steal it from your friend. And the point is that there's some things that even if they're exactly the same things, taking a pen for some that is not yours, if it's from your office or from your employer is okay. But if you take it from school, then it's considered stealing. Another thing that we can use to reduce the tension is to make us believe that we are not really cheating. That what we are doing, what we are engaging in, is basically okay. And this we can do with biased perception or bounded perception. So it seems that we judge things not in a way that is genuine to the reality, but some way that makes us feel and think and believe that it's okay because it's not really lying and cheating. And in order to do that, we use the dog test that Shachar mentioned a little bit, and I will try to elaborate about more. And in the task, you first see this nice fixation cross. So please try and focus on the cross. And you see dots. Where there were more dots? Can someone tell me? It wasn't easy, right? I mean, we usually give people maybe 1-2 seconds. In these experiments, we gave them 4 seconds because we wanted to measure their eye movement and their pupil diameter. So let's go back and give you 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now can someone tell me where there are more dots?
Left.
Equal.
Let's see. So we can see that there are more dots here. This is a mirror image. So we used a vertical line and we divide the square in 2 sections. In each section we have the same dots. Only there is one side in which there are dots that are missing. From this side there are 1 here, 2 here, and 1 here. So this is a relatively easy trial because the difference between the 2 sides is relatively big. We have trials in which it's fewer, some in which 3, some in which only 1, so it's more difficult. And after we present the test, it's repeated trials, we ask them to tell us where there are more dots, on the right side or on the left side. Usually they can do it. I mean, as you see, it's not so easy, but when you sit in a lab, you focus on the screen, you can get most of the right. And we use 3 different types of conditions. In one condition, we incentivize their accuracy. So we said whenever you select the side that had more dots, you get 10 cents. And if you select the side that has less points, fewer points, you get 1 cent. This is one type of trial. We had 42 trials from each type, from each condition. In the incentive for right, we tell them it doesn't matter how many points in which side. Be as accurate as possible and always select the side with the more points or with the more dots, but we will give you 10 cents when you select right, and we give you 1 cent when you select left. In a counterbalance condition, we did the same, only with incentive to left. We told them you have more dots, you select left, you get 10 cents even if they weren't, but be accurate and try to select the side with the more dots. The reason we did it was first to counterbalance the sides, but also because we used eye tracker, we don't want people to have an orientation to focus on one side and then the other. For Israelis, for example, we read from right to left, so you all, start the scale from the right side and go to the left. Most English speakers then do the opposite because they start at the left side and then go to the right, and we see it in the data of the eye tracking. And we use, as I said, 3 types of trials. Easy trials in which the difference between the dots is bigger, 5 dots more, medium 3 dots more, and hard 1 dot. And let me demonstrate the... Okay, before that. So basically what we measured, behavioral responses to what people actually select. And then we focused on the error rate, not on the selection. I will discuss it further. We had 4 types of responses that I will demonstrate: correct hits, correct rejects, detrimental errors, and beneficial errors. And let me show you what I mean by each type. So let's start with correct hits. Let's say that we are on the pay for right condition, in which I get 10 cents if I select the right side, 1 cent if I select the left side. But I'm supposed to identify the side with the more points and to select. So this is what we call a correct hit, because there are more dots on the right, and I selected more dots on the right. I get more money, but I also made the right decision, so it's a correct hit. A correct reject is that I selected the correct response, which is the low-paying response, so I leave money at the table, but at least I'm being honest, and I selected the option that has the side that has the more points. Detrimental errors are basically errors that I made, but I'm losing money. So here, in this case, I said that they are more on the left, but actually they were more on the right. So not only I made an error, I left money at the table because selecting right could have earned me 9 cents extra. And the last one, which we are focused on, what interests us most, is the beneficial errors, because these are errors that makes me gain more money. And this is what we call, and I will all later, I will try to convince you why it is, in fact, constitute cheating. But basically it says, I'm selecting the side that pays more, even though it's the wrong side to select. Any question? You, the black.
Yeah, no question.
No, he's the black. Sure. No question. Okay. So this is the task. These are the behavioral responses that we measured.
Why
Yes.
do you expect that people will do detrimental error?
Because people make errors. Judgment and perception are not perfect, and people will make errors. I mean, we don't have a 100% accuracy, even when we pay them for accuracy. So they do make errors. Some of the errors are innocent, and we don't want to measure the innocent errors. We want to measure the errors that are basically constitute cheating behavior. Yes.
I have a hard time seeing why it's lying or like immoral or cheating behavior. This, I mean.
Were you here at the Shahas talk?
No, I wasn't.
That's the reason.
That's the reason. Okay.
No. I will tell you why. Because Shahas showed that there was a very big scandal with medical insurance companies in the United States, in which they showed that they encouraged doctors to prevent or to deny necessary medical treatment from people who don't pay money. And the reason why they say, this is the medical consideration, you should give treatment, but the incentive, the financial incentive is to select the cheaper treatment. And this is basically tries to mimic something like that, because I tell you, okay, this is the right decision, but this is the decision that pays more money. So me as a physician, I can say, hey, this patient needs medical treatment that costs $10,000. I can deny this treatment, get more money, get bonuses for my employee, and this poor person can die, but still, I saved a lot of money to the company. Or I can say, no, it doesn't matter how much I make, it doesn't matter how much my company makes, it only matters what's right and wrong. So this is, obviously we are not affecting people's life, we are not killing anyone, but it's a very small scale in the lab, a situation that tries to mimic things like that, in which you give them instructions to be accurate, but you give them an incentive not to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it kind of reeks of demand characteristics. So at least you could argue that, maybe the experimenter actually wants me to pick the side where I get paid the most or something like that. It's not clear from the kind of moral norms of the experiment or being in the lab that either one of these sides should constitute cheating or not.
Okay, I mean, this is, debatable, and we usually debate it with our reviewers, so it's, it's a legitimate argument. We feel it does kind of let us know exactly how much people cheat, because we always tell them to be accurate, and when we don't give them the opportunity to cheat and to lie, they do select based on their accuracy. I mean, it's a valid argument. We only have the data to try and.
But you mean that people consciously know that they are giving the wrong answer in order to make more money? So why it's not considered cheating?
I mean, there is this effect, the demand characteristic effect, where that participants would really like to do what the experimenter wants them to do. And if I get into an experiment where the experimenter tells me that I get more money for choosing that option than that option, then I might guess that what he really wants me to do is actually choose the wrong option, which makes my choice not immoral.
But you're also being told in parallel to choose the most accurate one. They're also and you get
No,
more money.
I ask you, we explicitly ask the participant to be as correct as possible first in the instruction. lead maybe to perceptual bias, that if they stay more on the right, then people start to see more dots on the right. every
No.
time.
No, but he doesn't
No,
say
I
that.
think
He
what
says
he's
that-
saying,
yes,
what he's saying is that
command effect.
what he's saying is that participants understand that what we expect them to do is to select the highest paying sign. This is why they select it, not because they try to cheat, not because they try to make money, because they try to make us happy, in a way, or because this is, what's going on. I mean, it's a possibility. We can't rule it out completely, but the pattern of results that we have suggest, and we have other, I'm not going to present it now, but we have other tasks in which we get similar patterns, similar results. So, yeah, it's very hard, and this is, I think, one of the key issues is it's very hard to actually examine real life, dishonest behavior. Because most people who act dishonestly don't admit it, and you need to be, smarter than the participants in order to, encourage them to lie and cheat and be dishonest without affecting their actual behavior. We're hoping that we are able to capture it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's a valid point, and I don't have 100% convincing response that this is cheating for sure, but we believe it is, and I think that the data will speak for it too. Anyway, so this is the behavioral result, data that we are looking at. We also looked at attentional measures of cheating, which we used eye tracking to do that. Eye tracking is the process of measuring the point of gaze, or where people are looking at. And it gives us several types of information. So the first thing is what type of information people search before they make a decision, which type of information they look at first, which suggests what type of information is more important to them. It also gives us a suggestion of what they try to not to look at, what they try to ignore, and things like that. So this is one of the things that we use eye tracking to track the information search, or the pattern of information gathering that people are using. We also can see what information people are perceiving, because we can only process and we can only take into account in this decision process information that we perceive. So if we don't look at things, if we don't pay attention to them, it means that they are not part of the decision process. And finally, we know the weight that people are giving to different types of information, because if you focus on specific types of information more, if you have more frequency of fixation, it means that these information types are more important to you and they get more weight during the decision process. Okay? Now another thing with eye tracking data is that it has high temporal resolution, so we can get more than 60 gazes per second. So it means that we can even try and track some intuitive processes that people are not quite aware of yet. It is affected by difficulty, so when there are more difficult decisions, we tend to gaze more because we need to collect more data to think more. And it is influenced by motivation and aim. So if I have a specific aim, a specific motivation, I will tend to, as we will see, to look more at information that can lead me, or that can help me reach this conclusion or this aim. And basically, in the context of cheating behavior, in the context of our paradigm, when we talk about our task, and if I tell people that I pay them more to select right, I would expect them to focus more on the right side of the square, because they will give more attention to the information that leads them to higher payoffs. Another thing that I would or can expect and can find out in this process using this measure is if they tend to shy away from specific locations. So in order for me to understand which side has more points, and in order for me to provide the accurate response, I need to identify the dots that are present here and are missing here. Now remember, this is a mirror image, so it's not that hard to figure it out if you have enough time. and if the difference is large enough, you don't even have to identify all the missing dots, but if you can see that there are some places in which there are missing dots, you can know that this side has less points, and you can know what is the accurate
There's
response.
always that dots are missing only from one side?
It's always like that, yes.
Because you couldn't have 3 dots missing here and 7 here, so
No,
it's not like that.
no, it's an identical mirror image, except the 5, 3, or 1 point that is appearing in one side and is not in the other side. So focusing on these locations in which there are missing dots is necessary to understand or to know that you have fewer dots here than there and vice versa. Okay? It's all clear? Good. The last measure that we use is a physiological one, which is it's the pupil diameter. It's easy because when you have eye tracking, it also gives you the pupil diameter, and it's the process of measuring the diameter of the pupil. It's an immediate and direct index of autonomic activity. So we have the peripheral nervous system, which is basically suggests that something is going on in the brain. Usually it's increased in response to increased arousal, and this arousal could be due to many, many things. Increased feelings, emotional arousal, and things like that. And it's a very good and direct index of cognitive load. It has been seen in many, many experiments that people increase their physiological arousal, which usually indexed by many things like the size of the pupil, or we use the sweat glands to see if people sweat more, heart rate, and things like that. But it also can suggest that there is a psychological tension or dissonance. There are some works that show that you can measure or can identify psychological tension with increased arousal. And it has been shown, and lie detectors, for example, are based on this finding and this assumption, is that when you cheat and lie, there is increased arousal. And this is why the autonomic nervous system is considered highly sensitive to cheating behavior. But usually what they say is that cheating is cognitively demanding, like Nietzsche said, and this is why there is an increase in the physiological arousal, because it indexes the increased demands for lying and cheating. So under this account or this assumption, if indeed, as Nietzsche said, and then the bounded ethicality approach suggests cheating is cognitively demanding, we should see that the cognitive demands of cheating should increase the arousal, and the task difficulty, because as I said, it's sensitive to task difficulty, and we use different types of trials to manipulate task difficulties, it should increase in both directions. However, if you take the ethical dissonance approach, which suggests that when it's become less clear to us that we are cheaters, or when we have good reasons to believe that we are not cheating, then the ethical dissonance or the psychological pressure or tension should reduce. And in ambiguous situation, or situation in which the task is more difficult, there is only one dot that is missing on one side, or maybe 3. So the hard or the medium trials, it's going to be easier for me to convince myself that I'm not cheating, because I didn't really see this extra point in this extra dot in the other side. And so in this situation, the harder the task is, or the harder the trials are, I should still have more arousal due to the cognitive demand of the task difficulty, but I should have an opposing effect of reducing the arousal due to the reduced ethical dissonance. And basically, what we can measure with physiological arousal is if people do experience tension that will reduce when we increase the difficulty of the test, or if when we increase the difficulty of the test and people are lying and cheating and it's cognitively demanding, it's going to increase even more. Okay? Questions? Yes?
I don't get it. So could you
Okay.
just recap that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of your
of course.
IDs and DVs?
Yes.
So task difficulty is like the number of dots that are present, not present.
Yes.
And cognitive demand is what?
Cognitive demand of lying, of cheating.
Operationalized as how? What?
No, this is not operational. This is the assumption of all experiments and all papers that show that cheating increased physiological
So it's
measure.
measured by how much you cheat. So it's the behavioral measure of cheating.
Yes, exactly. But so the thing is that we don't know. Okay, we know that from previous research, we know that cheating behavior increased physiological arousal. And the normal or the most common interpretation is that it's because it's cognitively demanding to lie and cheat. But we say that maybe it's not necessarily so. Maybe it's the increase that comes with the ethical dissonance of lying and cheating. And if it does, then if we increase test difficulty, which should increase further the physiological arousal, but it reduces the dissonance, the ethical dissonance, it should even out the effect. So we don't basically manipulate the cognitive demand. We just say that this is the interpretation that most people who study dishonest behavior with physiological measures say this is why it increases. We say that there is another option. It's not because it's cognitively demanding, it's because you identify ethical dissonance. And if it's because it's ethical dissonance, it should go reduce when I increase the task difficulty. Because it makes me cheat more easily.
So when it comes down to it, you're saying pupil dilation should go up when the task is more difficult if you're bounded ethical, and go down if you're, what do you call it?
Self-maintenance.
Self-maintenance.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, because when the task is more difficult, it's more ambiguous.
It's better
Yeah.
justification.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
and
easier
then-
to justify
then
because
I don't really
I-
know, so I choose the high incentive side without a lot of dissonance. But when it's clear that it's left, it's much difficult for me to say that it's right.
Bless you.
But the trials are mixed, right? It's not like one person is in always difficult or always medium.
Yes, they are.
So it's easy, medium,
Right.
mixed for within person, right?
Yes. But we average it across the same trials over all the participants. So it's all evoked measure. I mean, like the ERPs, it's based on the stimuli, on the specific trials. I will talk about it a little bit more. Yes.
No,
Do you have a
because, if I don't get an answer when you talk on that
Okay.
later.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the results. So this is the error rate or the behavioral results, and this line represents the beneficial errors. This line represents the errors that people made in the accuracy trials, and these are the detrimental errors. So we can clearly see here that people make more errors when it's worth their while. I mean, when they can make more money, they make lots and lots of mistakes, and almost more than 80% of the errors are due to the fact that they want to make more money. They can reach a high level of accuracy when we pay them to be accurate, and when we don't do that, they almost make no errors that are detrimental. And this gap, we believe, clearly shows, and it's kind of affected by difficulty, so it's kind of natural to assume that the more hard the task is, more errors will happen. And it does support the notion or the claim that more ambiguous trials lead to higher levels of cheating, because here the difference between easy and hard in the detrimental errors are not as significant as in these beneficial errors. And it means that most errors that people are making are due to the fact that they know, or at least at some level they should know what is the right decision to make, what is the accurate decision, but they choose to make the decision that leads them to make more money. Okay? And since we have this data, we can say with a reasonable certainty that most beneficial errors represent cheating behavior, and in the physiological measure that and the eye tracking data, we focus on these types of decision to understand a little bit more what is going on when people decide to cheat and to take more money from the experiment. Yes.
Relative proportion of errors, relative conditional on an error. So 80%.
Yes.
70,
Yes.
80%
From the
of errors are
Yes.
beneficial.
Yes.
How many errors are there in the first place?
There were enough. I mean, since we have repeated trials, I mean, the accuracy level was about 80-something%, so a little bit less than 20% of the responses were errors, but they were.
So this is from those 20%
Yes.
or so.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I had a similar question. You compare different things there, right, in the same graph, because incentive for accuracy, I guess that's the more like there you compare. Sorry.
No,
You
this and this should be added to one. This one, it's different types.
Yeah, because
Right.
that is like sort of the proportion of errors you normally make, right?
Yes.
So you make around 30% of errors if you paid for accuracy, but if you, and then the other two graphs are sort of for,
This is This is
they
from a
are
different type.
proportionate.
You don't have detrimental errors
Yeah, sure.
because I mean you have nothing but detrimental errors in this condition. They pay for for accuracy because every error you make is detrimental. You can't make beneficial errors in this condition.
So still, I don't understand. Can you go back? So if
Yeah,
it's
sure.
supposing the incentive for accuracy, so what does it mean 30%? 30% of the errors are what? Or just 30% errors?
Yeah, it's
30% errors. Yes.
Okay, and then the detrimental, the 78% or whatever.
This one?
From the trial that you can do detrimental error.
Yes.
So trials that pay more to the right, but the left is the.
Basically, you have 50% of the overall trials in each condition that you have more dots on one side, but you can select the other side and get mine. So basically, it's about 42%, 42 trials, because we have 21 in each condition. So out of these 42 trials in which you can cheat and lie, you cheat in almost 80% of them in the hard trials, in 60% in the little bit less in the medium trials, and almost 50% in the easy trials. This happens.
Or the trial that you have opportunity to cheat.
Yes.
So I cheat in most of them.
Yes,
I make a
exactly.
mistake in the majority of them.
Yes. Yes.
But they
Okay.
do not add up to one.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. I mislead you. This should not add up to one because it has in other.
There's also
The remaining 21 trials, you didn't need to cheat and lie, so you didn't make any errors. But these are the other trials that should add up to one. But this let's say that from the trials in which you can cheat, you can select the option that leads you to the higher payoff, even if it's not the accurate one. You cheat on almost 80% in these trials, and almost 60% on medium trials, and almost 50% on easy trials. In the rest of the trials, you give the accurate response, or you give an easy. I mean, if we had an accurate line of accuracy, then these three lines should have added to one.
We also see here again the power of the situation, because it's within participants, and when the situation is more ambiguous, people cheat much more.
They allow themselves to cheat.
Situation.
Yes, it's within, so it's the same person. Yes.
But it should have then that they're, sorry for dwelling if you want to.
No, it's fine.
That people make more, like,
They make but
more
fewer.
mistakes than accurate decisions. More even
Yes.
bad mistakes for themselves, right?
Yes, that's true. Because
In the
we
heart.
do expect to have some kind of an effect for difficulty, but it's more on situations that are, I mean, I don't know, maybe the incentive is not high enough to invest that amount of attention, And this in situation when you can cheat, you're in the first place, maybe you don't invest as much effort because you say, you know, I can always get more money even if I don't try hard. So maybe this is why it's more obvious here in this situation in which, you know, you only get paid for accuracy. But we know that, you know, overall they get more than almost, let's say, 80% of the responses are accurate. So they can make the test relatively with high accuracy. Yes?
But so that means that if you subtract the increase in errors that is simply from the task being harder from the increase in errors that is beneficial, then you get the effect of cognitive dissonance decreasing, and like it's easier to cheat and have less cognitive
Yeah,
dissonance.
it's an interesting idea. We haven't tested it, but yeah, it could be. I mean, I think that we need a little bit more trials to get better, you know, stronger interpretation of it, but yes, it might be. And it's interesting idea. Thank you. Anyway, so let's try and sum up the behavioral results. So we do find evidence similar to many experiments that was done before us, that people do choose to cheat in order to increase the personal gain, and it does increases as the tasks become more ambiguous, and it gives us some credential at least to say that if we compare beneficial errors to other responses, we can understand what happens in responses in which people cheated as opposed to other responses in which they made accurate decisions or made more innocent mistakes. So next I want to show you some of the point of gaze or the attentional measures that we have. The first one is the amount of focus that the people gave to the sides. So this is the incentive for left. They got more money when they selected the left side, and they give more attention to the left side. This is the incentive for accuracy. It's closer to the 50%, which means that they give more attention to both sides equally, and it's not significantly different. And in the incentive for rights, they give much more attention to the right side, which means basically that people pay more attention, first, at least first, to the side that pays the most. Now we can see that this trend is not only in the first few milliseconds, it continues to the rest of the 4 seconds that we present the dots. Those who are more observant could say that something is strange here, because this gray line basically is the incentive for accuracy, and it shows that there is a bias toward the left side, and anybody can say or think, why is it that we find this similar pattern to incentive for left and incentive for accuracy? Yes?
That's just the reading order. People
Exactly.
start by
So
looking
people
right and
start to
left,
search.
then-
Right, so if they look at the left, then they look to the right, and then they go back to being more even. But in the incentive for left, which they end in incentive for right, which they start at the right because they want to look at the side that pays more, they go back because they have a tendency to look at the left, but they quickly come back, and to the entire span of the presentation of the dots, they keep the bias of giving more attention to the side that pays you more. And this is very important also because don't forget that if you only focus on the side that pays you more, you can't know if there are more dots on the other side, because you have to identify the missing points from the other side. So if you pay more attention to the side that pays more money, you tend to neglect to see if there are more points on the other side, or there are missing points on this side. Yes?
But this is a probability measure, right?
This is the fixation time that people gave to each side. So 50% means that they give the same proportion of fixation.
Yeah, but still it's actually a probability measure in
Yes.
in effect, so it's the probability of attending the left side.
Exactly.
Alright, great. So that said,
It means that
you
you-
will still attend left side, but the probability is just less.
Right, right. And it means that, you know, maybe you give between 5 and 10% more attention to the left side in incentive for left, and a little bit less than that in the incentive for right, but you still give more attention to the side that pays more.
It was fixed exposure time, 4 seconds.
Yes. For the
Yeah, yeah, but I was not talking about the time
Yes.
line, I was talking about the
Yeah, I know
y-axis.
that.
Yes.
I was just-
Okay, so the last thing here is basically the point of gaze specifically for each type of response, which is the correct hits. And we can see that people invested more times in looking at one of the sides when they gave a correct response, which means that they focused on this side more and they identified that there are more dots. But what interests us most is the difference between the correct rejects and the beneficial errors, because as I said, beneficial errors are errors that you made in order to make more money, and correct rejects, it means that you didn't cheat and you left money on the table. And we can clearly see that there are more biased responses to the side that pays more when you make cheating responses than when you make the accurate responses in situation where you can cheat to get more money. Okay? Another thing that we can't really show in a graph, but we found descriptively, is that since it was a mirror image, we could look at the amount of time in which people looked at the exact locations in which, from which dots were missing. So we looked at situation in which something like that happened, and how much time people look at this specific one or more than this specific location. And what we found was that people pay much less attention to the areas that have missing dots, which means that I don't know if exactly but semi-deliberately, I mean in a maybe preemptive way, before they reach conscious level, they identify which side has more points and which side has less points, and they tend to shy away or to ignore the very discriminative, important, crucial information that will tell them exactly which side has more points. So they have a very, very pre-conscious level in which they can identify pretty much what is going on here, and then they are diverted to look at the other side and to ignore the fact that there could be something fishy there. So if you want to summarize the attentional or the point of gaze data, we can see that people do focus their attention toward the highest paying side, which means that the option they prefer, the option that pays more, even in situations where they are encouraged to give an accurate response, they give more attention to this, which, as we said, since it's point of gaze data, it suggests that this is the information that they value more, they care about more than accuracy. At the same time, when they have a chance to look or to focus at discriminative information that can help them get the right decision, or at least the accurate decision before they make it, they shy away from it, and they tend to focus on other information, which kind of suggests that they do take into account their desires, their motivation, their desire to gain more money, and their desire to maintain a positive self-image. So they tend to focus on the side that pays more, and they tend to not look at where there are missing dots. And so we can say that at least at a certain level, we are supporting the bounded ethicality approach, saying that you are not completely and fully aware of the fact that we are cheating, because sometimes before it reaches our conscience level, we tend to look away and to ignore information that can tell us this is not the right decision. Now the physiological results, here we have the incentive for sides, and here we have the incentive for accuracy. So here we can only have the correct hits or the detrimental errors. Other trials do not apply to this condition. And in these two combined conditions of left and right, we can see that basically beneficial errors lead to the highest or the higher arousal relative to all other types of information. Not a lot different than arousal in the accurate or the correct X responses, which means that people basically invest the same amount of arousal, and we don't know yet what it means, we will see in the next slide, but they invest the same amount of arousal, it invokes the same amount of arousal when you give accurate responses and when you choose to cheat. But if we look at the entire waveform from the beginning of the fixation cross and the blank screen, we can see something very, very interesting. The beneficial errors, the cheating responses, are the red dots. And you can see that it starts even before the fixations cross, the difference, and it reaches the top or the peak at the end of the fixations cross. Which means basically that we see arousal, increase in arousal in response to cheating responses before you made the decision, before you saw the dots. Which means basically that people decide if they're going to cheat before they even see the trial. Yes?
So, if I get this correct, it's when the fixation cross appear, the pupil dilation expand, right?
Yes.
But you're presenting them with new visual stimuli.
Yes.
So, might that not account for the dilation in pupils?
Yeah, but it's different for the different type of responses.
Yeah, but still you see a rise when you present them with a fixation cross, and you interpret that rise as a sign that they have already decided to cheat. And what I'm saying is that might it not be more more reasonable explanation to say it's because there appear new stimuli that you put a cross right in front of them. That the
Yeah, but
is
we present the cross even when they made detrimental errors, and even when they made correct rejects, and even when they made correct hits. But the highest increase happened when they made responses that are associated with cheating.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we can see that, for example, we could expect in correct hits to have an increase because they are making more effort, they are more, they pay more attention, and this is why it leads them to better, more accurate responses. But even higher than that, it's the responses in which they cheated. Now, and again, I mean, this is an interpretation, we can argue about it, but our interpretation of the result is that people decide that they're going to cheat even before they start to cheat. Or because even before they have the opportunity to cheat. So I know that I'm in a situation in which I can select right and cheat to get more money, or select left. But I don't even know still if I need to cheat in order to get more money. Sometimes there are more dots on the right, even in the incentive for right trials. So I plan to cheat, then I look at the dots, I say, oh, I don't even have to cheat here, I can select the accurate response. And this is why it reduces. And during the presentation of the dots, we don't see a difference in cheating trials. But before that, when people made the decision to cheat, there is an increase in arousal. Now this is something physiological. There is an increase in arousal. This is significantly higher than any other type of responses in which people exhibit more arousal. We didn't, this is the result, and we didn't invent the interpretation. All experiments that used physiological data show that people before when they lie and cheat, they exhibit increase in arousal. We just show that it happens even in situation before you know that you need to cheat, but you know that there is an opportunity to cheat. Yes.
What about this last stage of decision? Isn't that interesting too, or is it not so much more anymore good for measuring pupil dilations? Because what I see in B is kind of that only the detrimental errors are actually registers as error, right? Oh, wait a minute.
Exactly,
right.
because you get an immediate feedback. So this is probably because he said, hey, I left money at the table. Not only I didn't cheat, I was stupid because I didn't cheat and I left money at the table.
This is a very interesting finding, and basically it has been shown also the arousal in like other types of anti or pro-social behavior.
Yes.
And you can actually see that before you, for example, start cheating, or before you start trusting, or before you will see an increase in arousal. Your studies corroborate that very nicely.
Yes, exactly. And another,
The blue one, you can call it the soccer effect.
the soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer.
Or soccer if you like to play soccer. Yes.
Could it be in principle that when you're aroused, you're more likely to cheat? Or you're less attentive to, it's harder to count dots, so you would choose the easy option, which is more profitable? And that the causation is the other way around?
It could be in certain type of arousal, but usually arousal can indicate also more attention. So it's not likely that you are more aroused and you make more honest mistakes, or that which leads you to make more money. So it's possible, but it's not very likely. Yeah, let's try and go.
Yeah, so I have no idea how to do significance tests on this in a few, I've done that, but for me, looking at the graph, the difference is not between the red line, which is the beneficial error, the cheating, and the rest, but between the red and the green and the other two.
Yeah. Here it's also significant, but it's less interesting to us.
No, but it's like the green line is also higher arousal, so it means that,
This one?
yeah,
Yeah, this is
Than the other.
significantly higher, which suggests that in situations where people were more aroused, they paid more attention to the trial and made more accurate decisions. And this is the correct hits
but
condition.
that's the correct reject, isn't it?
No. Correct reject is this one. Is the more.
So
It's very
basically,
hard.
it also means
I'm
that
sorry
they're
that
actually
our German collaborator didn't choose wisely the colors, but
Okay, so the red one is the beneficial error.
yes, the red ones are the
Cheating.
cheating
Yeah.
responses. This is the correct hits, and these are the basically the detrimental and the correct reject, which are also kind of correct responses, but are less exciting because it's a correct response that is not leads you to anything good.
Okay, so if you're more aroused, you're more likely to
Cheat or to make accurate
pick
response.
the side which pays you more
Yes.
To earn money.
to earn money.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So you're more aroused from the prospect of money, but
And
when it's from cheating, it's a little bit more and significantly more. What I think was found something.
I just wanted to ask if they were significantly different from each other, beneficial error and correct reject.
This and this?
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure, but I think that they won. I know. Yeah. I mean, overall, this was significantly high. So yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, does it mean?
No.
Well, no, just a small thing, like,
Yeah.
so maybe we could just refer to pupil dilation rather than arousal, because it could be concentration. That would be a maybe even better explanation.
Yeah. I mean, this is.
Like you start out like, okay, this trial I'm gonna do really well because last one didn't go so well. Like now I'm gonna put in some effort, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think that would be even more plausible interpretation, rather than preparing yourself for cheating. I don't know.
Right. But then I would expect it to be more similar. I mean, it's possible, but I would expect it to be more similar. That I'm gonna be very, very, concentrated now, and then hey, I have a chance to cheat. Let's go for it. I think that the results suggest that maybe it starts even before that, because the departure between the two waveforms starts very early in the blank screen, even before we make the.
Yeah, true, but I'm just saying, we don't know if it's arousal.
Yeah.
We just know that it's pupil dilation.
But if it was focused, then you would expect the two correct lines to be higher, right?
We're already after
Yeah.
the fact, so make a new prediction.
Yeah, but also, I mean, pupil dilation is a direct measure of arousal.
Yeah,
We
can
don't know
expect
what the
everything
meaning of
after
the
the
arousal
fact,
is, right?
It's easy.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but yeah. Yeah,
First of
sorry.
all, I wanted to ask, how much time do people have to decide?
So they have we don't limit them, but usually we see a response after less than 1 second.
Okay. Because like sometimes.
But here you see this is basically 2 seconds, half a second. So this is about 1.5 seconds until the end of the decision.
Yeah, I've participated in similar experiments. I don't know if they were about cheating or what, but my experience from participating in these things is this is exactly what has already been said. Like you make an error and then you say, okay, no, I have to focus now, and so you start prepare yourself for a certain type of action before you actually see anything.
Yeah, it could be, but We don't have, conditional
Yeah, sure.
responses, so I don't know. Yeah.
But you could do this model, this time series.
Yeah, I don't think we
Look
have
at
enough
the
data in
performance.
this round.
How many trials?
It's 42 tries for overall. So each one of these is being.
But it's without feedback, right?
No, they have immediate feedback.
They have
Every time.
immediate feedback. Oh,
Yes.
then it would be easy to know, right? Like if
Yeah,
you
we can do that. I
receive
think we need to
bad
add some more.
feedback, then after that maybe you will expect that
No, they have the feedback about how much
They made.
They
Not if
made.
they made an accurate.
but
so it's not per
if
trial.
they cheat or not. Like,
No,
what,
of course
not about what is the
They have
correct
immediate
score.
feedback on how much money
On
they
their
made
earnings.
this round. Only not in the accurate. They don't, because we don't want them to know if they were accurate or not. But when they get incentive to lie, then we tell them, hey, you get 10 cents here, you only got 1 cent here.
But we also have,
Something, I don't remember if we did it here, but yeah, maybe. But still, it's an immediate feedback, but not about the accuracy, about the payment. Sometimes you
They
can
know that.
infer.
The payment they know.
Yeah,
They know
the
that,
payment.
So it's not
Yeah, but we give them also a tally that says, an updated tally after
a
every.
reminder, but it's a reminder of something that they know. It's
Yeah,
not
they know, but
information.
it's more salient and more, vivid in the memory. But more importantly, to our purpose was the fact that basically we look at the hard, medium, and easy trials, and we can see that there is an effect for hard trials. Then medium, then easy, in incentive for accuracy, which means that the difficulty level did affected the pupil dilation, the physiological arousal. However, it's practically disappeared in the cheating trials, which means basically that contrary to the cognitive load interpretations, we see basically that not only the people cheat, they exhibit less arousal when the situation becomes more ambiguous and it's more easier to justify the cheating, which serves as a nice demonstration and evidence to the fact that people do experience ethical dissonance that could be eliminated by a tension reduction mechanism like ambiguous situation and justified of their dishonest. Okay, so if we summarize this physiological measures, we found arousal in cheating responses that is higher than in honest responses, even the accurate honest responses. Arousal differences were apparent before the dots even appear, which, let's skip this question because we already discussed this in length. And we also found that arousal was indeed very sensitive to difficult level in non-cheating responses or in non-cheating trials, but not in cheating trials. And this suggests that indeed it stems from ethical dissonance. Yes.
So, this thing with the arousal being apparent before the dots appear, and in line with what some people have commented about being predisposed because of the state of the autonomous system. Have you found any patterns, any kind of trial or distribution of dots that would predispose people to feel aroused? First of all, I guess I should ask, were the trials randomized?
Yes.
Or did every participant get the same?
No. Everything
Okay.
was random.
Because
The
if I
type of conditions was randomized, and in each condition the trials and even the dots themselves and the location on the screen was randomized. It just the program just select 25 in one side and then 25 minus 5, 3 and 1 in the other. It randomly select the side and randomly select the location of the dots.
So if you use the same for every participant and you found that they were more likely to be aroused and so go for one choice or the other at a certain trial, then maybe you're finding a kind of pattern of stimuli that predispose the participant to feel aroused and then have an effect on the choices they make.
Yeah, but since they didn't know exactly what's going on, they only knew the
It's
condition.
not about knowing, it's about like this thing that Simon said about when you make a mistake and you are trying really hard the next time. So maybe all of these arousals and the choice were partly motivated at least by a succession of errors.
Yeah, it
Because-
could be. I mean, we haven't. I mean, even without the physiological measure, we can look at the conditional, success rate to see if people have higher success rate after errors, as opposed to after, making correct responses. We can kind of suggest if people did invested more effort after they make errors. But so we don't have this data. We can look at it, but I mean, all the other evidence suggests that it's more about maybe the fact that they chose to make a dishonest mistake, because it was the most apparent in situation in which they had, at least in theory, the opportunity to cheat in order to get more money, but only after you see the dots you realize if you need to cheat in order to get more dots, so you can choose the side that has more dots and pays you the most. Yes.
What I find really cool to get a little bit away from this validation thing is that it's really like showing the dissonance kind of thing, because like in normal psychology studies of cognitive dissonance, main finding is this sort of active or unconscious disregarding of counterfactual or not counter, like information that runs counter to your
Right.
to the side you want to argue for. And that's very nice that you find it.
Yeah, because there aren't many. I mean, I have a paper with Andreas Lochner in which we show that if you give people contradicting information, it increase your arousal. And there is an earlier paper which examined physiological arousal in response to cognitive dissonance, and they also show there is an increase in arousal, but it's unexplored to a large degree. And I think it's maybe the first that we know of, the first real physiological evidence that there is some kind of ethical dissonance. So if you want to summarize everything and to say that tempting situation to cheat in order to benefit do lead to ethical dissonance, which should be bigger if the tempting situation lead us to higher incentives. If we are at a pre-conscious level and we can shy away from the real information, we employ different types of self-serving biases, mechanisms that won't allow us to realize that we are even productive in something that is unethical. If it's too late for that, we need to find some more conscious justification. Either way, we have both types of mechanisms that serve us to cheat and get the highest payoff possible without jeopardizing, to a large extent, our moral self and to perceive ourselves as being immoral and dishonest. And thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions that you haven't asked yet, now would be a good time. Thank you.
I just want to say that Max Bazerman is the author who termed the
Bounded ethicality.
concept of bounded ethicality. And he is also say that he asked people in the Wall Street, what did you think about Madoff? You saw that this small company makes so much profit for so many years above the market. It's impossible. Why didn't you check? Why didn't you ask questions? And a lot of people said, we felt that something happening there, but we didn't want to know because we also invest in this company.
By the way, I have to say
So it's the same, like you shy away from the information, but it's unconsciousness, but still it's you feel that something, you still feel that something is wrong.
I think it's important to emphasize bounded ethicality doesn't necessarily mean that you lie and cheat without knowing. Bounded ethicality also means that you don't have right tools or right abilities or rational abilities to judge unethicality. So, for example, sometimes people tend to think or to judge things as less harshly if people were extremely dishonest and extremely unethical, but it led to a good outcome, as opposed to people who were only slightly dishonest, but it led to a disastrous outcome. So the thing of bounded ethicality and of self-maintenance theory that we present here are taken to the extreme. This is not what Bezerman or Mazar and Ariely thought of when they first presented these theories. We just took to the extreme to emphasize the fact and to be able to have a nice theoretical framework to test our hypotheses and to employ our measures. But it's not just about that you don't look at what you do or that you don't perceive what you see. It's a little bit more elaborate than that. We didn't do justice to this theory here. Yes.
Can you say a few more words to pupil dilation and the relation to A, arousal, and B, cognitive load?
Yes,
The background
okay.
of that, because I get confused with this.
Okay, so physiological arousal is something very, very complex and very, very broad, because we can measure it very accurately, we just don't know what it means. And one of the things that help us understand better what it means is by doing an event-related measure, which means that you have repeated trials in which you differentiate or you measure the physiological arousal in response to different types of repeated trials of the same nature. And what we do know for certain is that if we give people, let's say, mathematical... This happens to me when I defended my thesis, and also, which was very nice, because I have to say that even after I completed my PhD, when you make your kids smile and you take good care of them, it's more fulfilling and more satisfying than any research project that you can make. But the thing is that we know that if you give, for example, mathematical equations and you ask people to solve them, when you give them harder mathematical equations, they are more aroused. They have increased arousal, and we know that increased arousal index cognitive load. But it can also index effective responses, like emotions. It can also, as we show, it can also index or express psychological tensions. There are many, many ways.
Wait, so you actually use arousal just like as you use it with
we use
pupil dilation, but like
Yes.
I wouldn't do that. I mean,
Why would you would you have if you have an eye tracker, you can do it.
no, but
This is an index. We
I
didn't.
think there are two interpretational steps, and I'm not quite sure about like why is pupil dilation a measure for arousal, and
Because-
then why for cognitive load, and is it the same or not?
No, it's not the same. It is a measure of arousal because we know that when the peripheral nervous system, which is not the brain, everything besides the brain, is more aroused, certain things happen. So the heart rate increases, the pupil dilates, the vessels and peripheral areas construct because we need to give more blood to the brain, because we need to have a better perception. This is why the pupil dilates. This is one of the fight or flight mechanisms. We know that it happens. So this is not something that we invented. This is something, physiological researchers have been shown for many, many, many years. We just use this measure, one of the most common and most accepted and most easy to measure and to quantify measures of physiological arousal. We just use it and apply it to understand a little bit more what happens inside the brain when you make
I
decisions.
totally get that. I just think that, I agree that I can say if I'm aroused then my pupil is dilated. But I think the other direction, that's not so easy, right? Because if
Yes.
my pupil dilated, it could be also due to something
To many,
else.
many, this is the
And
problem.
that's my problem.
So the problem, so this is why we apply repeated measure, and this is why we measure arousal in response to specific different types of responses in order to try and limit the interpretation of where the arousal stems from. It's not perfect, and one of the biggest problems in researching with physiological arousal is to understand exactly what it reflects. What we can, if we have a good theory and we have good prediction that say, if this theory is right, then arousal should go to this direction, and if this theory is right, it should go to that direction. And once we have the pattern of result and we show which direction the physiological goes or which pattern it leads to, based on which types of responses, we can say with more certainty. It's never certain. It's if in our wildest dream maybe get 20-30% accuracy, but this is the evidence suggests that it's more about that than it's about that.
But just like
But this
just
is-
one more, one more critical thing.
No,
Or
no,
if it-
you can have more.
for me
Two,
it sounds
three.
very different to say, when I see the difference between the cheating arrows and the non-cheating arrows, right?
Yes.
Or the other responses. It's a different thing to say, he was more, to prepare cheating, he was more aroused, or like he got
Yeah.
more aroused, or he focused more and he applied more cognitive load, right? There are different interpretations of the same findings.
So the finding is they were more aroused. Why they were more
No,
aroused?
the finding is the pupil was more dilated. And is that referring to the arousal or is it referring to the cognitive load?
No, arousal could be interpreted as cognitive load, as more emotional response, but the measure itself is measure of arousal. So they were more aroused, this is something you can't argue. Why they were more aroused, this we can debate.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.